It's the legalities, it's the process, it's the negotiations that are the part of real estate that the public doesn't see. They see marketing and sales, and they see houses for sale online, and they think that real estate agent's job is to put it on the multiple listing service. But it goes way, way beyond that.
In this episode of the SLO County Real Estate Podcast with Hal Swayze, we get a real intimate look at the team, as it's just Hal and JT and their opinions of some things that are going on in real estate, like what layouts are in most demand, when the market will become a frenzy again, the importance of accountability in a real estate transaction, and where the commission goes and why. Now he's back from a very important trip. He's our host, James Bueno.
San Luis Obispo Real Estate Podcast with Mr. Hal Swayze and John Turner. How are you, sir? Sirs?
Which sir?
Sirs?
He's a
yeah,
sir.
I mean,
I'm not a sir.
I like how you both pointed at each other.
guy.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I feel great. I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Awesome,
Couldn't
Mr.
be
I
any
get
better.
to hang out with you guys.
I
Come
know,
on.
right? Mr.
Yeah.
Kingman, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm glad I wasn't in the shot with them because I would have been much sorry.
Yeah,
talking
just
you a
about-
sir?
pointing at each other.
Everybody's a sir.
Hal, JT, how are you guys doing?
Great, James. Good to see you.
Awesome.
Thank
Get-
you.
Get
I'm
to
glad-
hang out with you.
I know. I'm glad I'm back from my vacation last time.
Hey,
So
did you ever tell anybody
yeah.
why you missed a couple podcasts?
you didn't ask. I wasn't just going to come out and say it.
Well, I'm asking now.
Oh, it's too late. It's too late. No, I got hitched. So I missed.
Ooh.
You mean married?
Married, yeah.
Good.
What's the other?
Well, I'm just being clear. I mean,
Oh,
you
gotcha,
can't,
yeah,
you
I did.
can't minimize this. This is on national, public, international
International.
radio.
International.
Top five. It's top 5% of the podcasts in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So now a lot of people
just
know.
to let everybody know I'm no
Off the
longer
market.
available. I am off the market.
You're off the market.
Yeah,
Well, congratulations.
well, thank you guys.
That'll
Thank you, I
cut down
appreciate
on
it.
our internet inquiries, unfortunately.
Right,
James,
I
if
know.
you unavailable,
I know. Yeah, now that I'm not available.
hot listing comes off the market.
Right.
it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Think about all those times we told people to give Hal a call for any coming soon.
for any reason. Yeah. I'm no longer available.
Well, on that note,
On that
are we going
note,
to talk
yeah.
about some real estate or what?
I thought
Yeah.
that was.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time it's just been
The two of us.
The two of us up here. These guys are back behind their computers and everything.
Feels much more like we're at a bar now, but we're just,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway.
You know, would you run downstairs and get me a
Yeah,
cold beer?
yeah,
Would you?
no. Bartender.
So I got a couple questions for you, Hal. It's probably more like, two questions in one. What's the near future of the market look like? We'll kind of run through that a little bit, and then we'll talk about what's the future of the real estate business
Yeah.
look like. And so the first question, we have to ask ourselves, are we talking about, with the market, are we talking about price or activity, the number of
Sure.
transactions? So we know 23 was a relatively low transaction year compared to history.
Right.
What's 24 looking like?
Locally, I think it's going to be the same. And it's interesting because I think we're on track nationwide to have about 4 million sales. And in 2022, I think was the big year, we had over 6, which was an anomaly. So we got used to that. So it's definitely a step back in terms of number of transactions, but prices have stayed pretty well the same. We have just shy usually of around 2,400 sales last year, and we're on track for about the same thing this year. And our average price so far is pretty close, maybe $10,000, $15,000 in difference. So it varies from time to time. So it's a pretty steady eddy, what I would call predictable market, which people like, right? So we know that. Boy, if rates drop, that would change the complexion. But if I think nationally, everybody's experiencing similar things that we are, but maybe not to the same extent, and that's housing, shortage, more people. As somebody just mentioned, one of our appraisers, Mark Adams, about the value of a 4-bedroom home, because if you have 2 children, 1 child in each room, master or main bedroom for mom and dad, extra room for an office, because so
Right.
many people work from home.
So there's a little more demand for 4 bedrooms.
Or a little bit more space, because that space that those folks used to work in or maybe do a little bit is not being used. So there's office space that's empty, but it's being absorbed in the residential side. So there's so many factors pushing into, there's more people. Houses need more demand because now there's work at home, so they want space for that. Builders just can't build them fast enough. I haven't tracked permits in this county, but it's very unlikely we're going to see a big spike in inventory. So that tells me that prices are highly likely to go down very much because of that demand.
So we're 4 million sales in the country.
Yeah.
And at a high point, what was that number?
The high year was 6.6, and it was
Okay.
2022 was the big COVID year. It slowed down at the end of that year, but I think that was the year.
Low of 4, high of 6.6.
4 is average, actually.
Okay.
4 is an average.
I thought 4 was a low number.
For relatively, but if you go back over time, 4 million sales, I think that was in the mid 90s. There were maybe 4 million sales a year. So
I read this week that there were 4 million sales in 1995,
yeah.
and there are 4 million sales in 2023. But here's the difference. There are 70 million more people in this country. Did you know that?
Since 95 to today,
yeah.
70. Because there's
70
330 million in the country, roughly, maybe 350, whatever.
I
So
don't
we're
know
throwing
how
out big
accurate
numbers.
that what I read was, but that's what I read. If you've got 4 million sales with 70 million more people, there must be some reasons that are holding the number of transactions a little bit low. I think 4 million is a little bit low with 70 million more people.
Oh, hello. Yes.
Yeah.
There would be more if there was more homes available.
What are the things that are making this lower number of transactions happen? Can you think of what?
Sure. Well, you can either have a resale home, which means someone needs to sell. And I think nationwide, I heard 40% of the homes are free and clear. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I just heard that. You must have heard it the same place I did.
Right? So if you have a financed home, and you financed it in the last 5-6 years or whatever, there's a good chance you have a very low interest rate. A lot of people have refinanced, so if you're sitting on a 3% or even 4%, you don't want to go to 5, 6, 7.
So you're locked in.
You're locked in because,
to the house you're in now.
Yeah, because that's a big jump, and it may not be worth it financially.
So you're not selling.
That's limiting our supply.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have new home construction. And boy, it's tough to get new homes, plus the cost of building is high. Regulations are difficult, and they've made some steps in California where with like accessory dwelling units where you can have people. I think that was a smart move. We need that.
So you're talking about people locked in to their current rates. You're talking about builders not building as many houses, and that leads us to one of the main influencers of the market, and that's inventory. So our inventory is low. I will tell you that I looked this morning, and in the metrics where I follow, and I follow just single-family condos and townhouses. I don't follow land and mobile homes. We were a low of just above 200 in COVID, and we just went over 500 in the last week for the first time since I've been watching.
No, it's been going up because we were at extremely low levels. Still very low, 500 homes for a county of over 250,000 people. That's not a lot.
When we talk about predicting the future, I always kind of hedge. And I go, okay, if you tell me what inventory is doing and you tell me the second variable, which are interest rates, you tell me what those doing, and I'll be a better predictor of the market, right? I heard this week, I don't know if you heard it too, one of the guys I was listening to, industry expert, talk about prediction. We're still waiting for it, but prediction of interest rates going down as much as 1.5 points next year. And what would that do to the market?
We're under 7. I've heard, here recently. It jumps every day. So
I know somebody who just locked at 6.99.
There you go. So we're under 7. So 1.5% puts you at 5.5%. That's a lot more attractive.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of people will refinance. They love that if they bought their home recently. A lot more new buyers can buy more house. People can afford more. So it will have a positive impact on pricing. And probably impact supply because more people will be buying homes.
If this pent-up demand is real, and I don't know any reason to not believe that there's pent-up demand and interest rates go down, it's going to drive the number of transactions up. Yep. It's going to drive prices up, right? Is that what you think?
Up and up.
That's what I think.
Those two levers pull everything. Whoever is saying that drop of 1.5%, I think that would be fantastic if it happened. I don't know if it will, but there's signs that point to that happening in the economy.
Many episodes ago, we brought up the term, and I'm not sure I love this term, but I believe in it, and that's date the rate and marry the house.
Right.
That's not one of my favorite terms, but it does tell the story that if you can get into a house today, bite the bullet on a $699, you go wake up a year from now and be below $6, and now your house payment's going down $300, $400, $500, $1,000 a month, depending on the amount of your loan.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I heard some people this week talking about the business of real estate and looking ahead to that. And with all the changes in the business, with regulations and the market, what are we seeing and what do we anticipate as you think about the business of real estate?
Well, we have a potentially and very likely major change with the ruling for the National Association of Realtors. Two things are going to happen. We've talked about it, but one, you won't be able to, we don't believe, publish what a agent who has a buyer brings to the seller and the listing agent in terms of a commission to be paid. Does that mean commissions will change? Or, people thought, oh, this means commissions are negotiable. You get paid less. Potentially, they've always been negotiable. But when I sit down with a seller now, the form is starting to look like, okay, here's what you're paying an agent who's representing you. Here's what you can choose to pay a buyer's agent, but we can't publish it. We'll see if those change any dynamics, but the commission is paid, one, to get hopefully good advice and good counseling on what to do and how to price your home, how to sell it, and how to avoid pitfalls. It's also used to attract buyers to the property. So you can attract buyers to the property through advertising. You can make your home a better value in terms of price. You can offer concessions like during interest rate changes. If one seller's offering a credit for closing costs or lowering your interest rates, that'll matter. I mean, I've seen builders go from we'll pay an agent $1,000, just hand us your buyer, we'll take it from there, to we'll pay a 4% commission and we're going to give away a car when they're having trouble. Seriously, that's happened. Whatever you do to make your home more valuable, commission's a part of that. So that will change. And then the big change is going to be, you can't just go to a real estate agent, hey, go show me the house and I'll meet you there. There's a form there's going to be a sign that's going to spell out what the duties are of the agent and what the agent would get paid and what a buyer may possibly be responsible for to that agent. We'll see how that plays out and what the market determines when that happens, but that'll make it more interesting. The complexity has gone up, John, so that is going to affect participants in the marketplace.
Boy, you said a lot there in those few paragraphs. Sorry. I mean, there's a lot of information in what you were saying. I read something this week says great agents understand the business is more than sales and marketing. You and I had that conversation privately already this week. It's the legalities, it's the process, it's the negotiations that are the part of real estate that the public doesn't see. They see marketing and sales, and they see houses for sale online.
Yeah.
And they think that the real estate agent's job is to put it on the multiple listing service. But it goes way, way beyond that. With these recent rulings, the fact that you've got a history of 3,000 sales has to say something to the marketplace.
That feels like a personal question, but I just mean in general. I mean, I've got a person I've known for years that's going to sell her house to a friend and was asking me questions. And I was saying, well, if I were you, I would do X, Y, and Z. I would recommend that. And she's talking about making a move and being near a family member and their family. And I go, I moved recently, so I get the stress and, it's exciting new times. So it's kind of like looking at a doctor, someone who will cut you open and, put a new hip in or whatever that is. But they're going to tell you what's going to happen. They're going to tell you how to avoid the pitfalls. They're going to tell you what to expect after the surgery happens, how to protect yourself, and they're going to follow up with you. And there's a lot to that you don't see a lot of times. So, this trend in the marketplace is going to make it difficult for agents that just do it from time to time. It's going to be tough. I've been doing this a long time, and there's a lot to keep up with in terms of the changes.
I was talking to the CEO, Keller Williams, Bobby, who couldn't be with us here today, and I was asking her, are you seeing countrywide, less storefronts, maybe less brokerages, some agents, as you were talking about, moving to the cloud, and they're not having big offices. Their agents are officing in their house, and to your point, a lot of them are part-timers to begin with, right? Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, well, yeah, we've seen that for a while, but there's a lot of companies that have a model that they want to cut their overhead down and work from your home, and that's certainly a way you can do it. Doesn't seem to be the best fit for what we have chosen to do to serve our clients and provide the value and the coverage needed and the collaboration that we have within the office. That'll happen. I think it's just going to be more difficult because you need to learn, and you can read a book, but you get a lot of experience. There's a reason you go to a class with a teacher. And there's a reason people go to forums with other experts to see what's better. So being alone is probably not the best way to stay on top of things. And then if you're not doing it very often, it's definitely going to make it more difficult to keep track of what's happening.
Well, business owners are always looking for ways to make their businesses better. And I was in the audience many, many years ago where the chief marketing officer of Coca-Cola was speaking. And he said, he was saying, you can't shrink to prosperity.
Right.
So as these large brokerages are shrinking, I wonder, can you really shrink and be prosperous? As opposed to the model that I observed you using, and you correct me if I didn't get this right. Your model's more a consultative model, a high touch with the client model, high communication with the client, following the transaction, all the way through.
Sure.
Much more of a consultative role than, let's say, a sales role.
Right.
Am I reading that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And the longer you do it, the more you can give guidance about things that you can overlook, or you've seen a lot of things that can go certain directions. So our job is to constantly do that. And the great thing is everybody on our team loves doing that. And we love to figure out how to do things better and make the process better. So we're honored to be able to serve the community that way, and that's the way we do. And I don't, personally want to have lots and lots of agents. I just want a really good group. I'd rather have a small team that fit our core values, and we're providing good value to the customer, because I think that will make the difference going forward. And it's trickier to find. I mean, you go anywhere these days, and people are overworked and they're tired, and sometimes the level of service isn't what it used to be. And so we want to stand out and kind of hold to that standard.
I watch how close you guys stay to the client through the whole process, and it's great to see that. The NAR is a big deal.
Sure.
I mean they're a trade organization, the biggest trade organization in the country that supports home ownership. And
yes.
To me, that's
very important.
As a result of the ruling, I've heard, again, probably back to some of the part-timers that we're talking about, I've heard some agents say that, well, the commissions are going to go down, or they're not going to be paying commissions to the buyer's agent, and that type of thing. And how could they come to that conclusion? Because I haven't come to that conclusion for sure.
Right.
A friend of ours experienced this up in the north part of the state, where they actually listed a house for sale.
Yeah.
And because buyer commissions are published today,
right,
because the ruling hasn't gone into effect, they put down 0 buyer commission. Guess what happened to the house?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sat on the market.
Right.
2 weeks later, the seller goes, how come my house isn't selling? And the listing agent goes, well, because you're not willing to attract buyers. 60 to 80% of the buyers, I'm told, need help getting into a house.
Well, again, it's the competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're a homeowner and you're selling your property now, it's a product you're selling. And if you're competing with products where service is free or whatever it is, and you come to one that you go, oh, I've got to write a check for $20,000 extra to buy this one, or on the other two I don't, they're probably going to go to the other one. The commission, as we said earlier, is an incentive. So I believe that, and every house is different. So there's certain homes that, boy, you could put it out there yourself. There's going to be buyers. Will you get the highest price? Maybe not, right? Because I can attest to that through the exposure. And other homes are going to need everything they can to draw buyers in that will pay a fair price for sure. It's going to be a more difficult conversation because, quite honestly, in my opinion, the more challenging part of working in real estate is to present your value to a seller who's going to pay you a certain amount if you sell it in a price and fashion they like. But historically, you could be an agent that works with a buyer and you don't have to prove any value to them. You have to find them the house and do a good job, but you're going to get paid on that transaction no matter what. That's going to make it a little more difficult for some people to provide that value. So again, we have to demonstrate what we're doing. It has to be worthwhile, and at the end of the day, I think it's going to end up, as you always say, the buyers pay it anyway. And why do they always pay it?
Well,
how do you say that?
That was what I was just going to bring up. If you asked 100 people out in the public that don't do real estate for a living, who pays the commission, and almost everybody. I did find one that said it differently the other day. are going to say the seller's paid the commission because on the seller's statement, it shows the commission. It doesn't show the commission on the buyer's statement.
Right.
But who brought the money to escrow to get the deal done? Was it the buyer or the seller?
The buyer wrote
The
all that
buyer
money.
wrote all the checks to get that deal done. So I could make a very strong argument that in history, the buyer has always paid commissions.
Yep.
And yet I get funny looks when I tell that story.
Yep.
The cost of a good agent is what?
You know,
A little bit?
It's, no, yeah, it's a little bit. Of course, of the big thing. Sure.
What's the cost of a bad agent?
Could be pretty big. It could be
Could
high.
be pretty big, yeah.
Bigger.
So when you're talking about this new ruling, I don't think it's going to change much in the business for good agents.
And it probably won't change much at all because I deal with people from time to time that are selling houses on their own. And here's what I used to say, and I don't deal with it. You don't see it as much anymore. But I used to use the example, if you went to Macy's and bought a brand new watch and it was in the case and you took it home and a week later you decided you didn't want it. And you took that watch and you went to sell it at a garage sale. Would you sell it for the same price?
No, sir.
Why not?
It doesn't have the same value.
Yeah, well, okay, but it's because of the environment in which you buy it, I believe. At a Macy's, you know, there's somebody standing behind it. You've got all the protections. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, you take a brand new something. You try to,
the thing I think of immediately is cars.
Right? If you private party a used car or sell that same car at
Great
a used
example.
car dealership.
Yeah.
Right. There's two different prices.
so it's at a retail setting. Sellers have the opportunity to create a retail setting, or they can go direct and be a wholesale. I don't think that'll change, but it'll take a little bit more explaining for a while, and a good agent will help a seller discover that, and someone that needs more help, maybe not.
I wrote this down yesterday. Service and experience come with a fee,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Less or poor service or experience comes with less of a fee.
Well, yeah, and sometimes a less favorable result. I would say.
That's what's the cost of of a bad agent, right?
Yeah.
So as we think about the future of the market, and we think about the future of the industry,
Yes.
how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm weird. I mean, I love it. You know, I mean, I love helping people get from A to B. And, you know, you've done a lot of coaching. I mean, it's nice to see somebody go from, boy, I'm here. I'd like to get to here. I'm not sure how to get there. And they might get there, but with our help, they'll get there a little bit easier and faster and make the road a little bit smoother. So that's what I love. You know, at the end of the day, somebody's buying a home, you get to help them in their new home. Selling a home, which is stressful, moving is stressful, everything that's involved. So we're there to be the calming influence, give them good guidance, and help, you know, be the guiding light for people in the community. So we love it. We have a blast with it.
I heard you say this a couple of weeks ago, that you were here before Y2K. You were here from 2008 to 2010. You were here for COVID. You've been here through changing interest rates. You've been here through changing regulations.
Yeah.
And you're still here.
Before the internet.
And still thriving.
Imagine if we didn't have an
before
internet.
the internet.
I'd have to call up and see whose house is for sale.
How long would it take you to sell a house before the internet? Just for us youngsters out there.
I can't remember what happened. No, we'd have a printed book,
Right.
So, or you'd see a sign or somebody would call you. So it was just slower. And now the market changes faster. And also it's great because you've got international knowledge from the internet. So you're going to have way more exposure through internet exposure.
You probably put more miles on your car.
Back then. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And my cell phone bill was huge.
Yeah. At 45
That's when you paid per call.
Oh, gosh, yeah. You had minutes. Oh, my gosh. I
Yes.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, this has been great. And,
Yeah, thank you, JT.
Appreciate your views of the future, and can't wait to see it happen.
That's it. Let's go.
Let's go.
Any last thoughts?
Well, shoot, I can tell you one thing.
Yeah.
The next time you see me on a podcast, I'm going to have a 0 at the end of my number. So, holy cow. Never thought 70 years
70
old.
years, yeah.
I was going to say 90.
70
My
years
bad.
old.
90.
90. You rotten son of a gun, you,
Yes.
James Bueno.
All right.
Yes.
My bad, JT.
Yeah.
Those of you that listen to us, thank you so much. We appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for listening to the Hal Swayze podcast. Be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast. Check for it in your feed for the latest information on the San Luis Obispo County market. The Slow County Real Estate with Hal Swayze podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and on halswayze.com, where you can find current listings and other real estate tips. halswayze.com, that's HALSWEASEY.com. I am James Bueno, Director of Marketing for the Hal Swayze Group. If you're looking for anything real estate, give us a call, 805-781-3750.
San Luis Obispo Real Estate Podcast with Hal Swayze is also on YouTube. Now you can see people talk about real estate in one of California's hottest markets. Get the latest episode on the podcast page at teamswayze.com or subscribe to Hal Swayze on YouTube. Hal Swayze is a licensed California real estate broker. DRE number 011119111. The Slow County Real Estate with Hal Swayze podcast is a production of AGM Podcasts. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.